Look, I'm not gonna force you to watch this video, but you might wanna stick around for all the airtime. Okay, I'm sorry. I won't try to force too many more bad puns on you, I promise. Welcome to Coaster Mania. I'm Micah, and today I'm gonna talk about everything revolving around forces you may experience on a roller coaster. So sit back, relax, and
may the force be with you.
Floor time! Airtime! Floor time! Airtime! Floor time! Airtime!
yes, little birdie, these are two of the most enjoyed forces on a roller coaster. So what are these? Well, since we currently exist within the limited confines of 3 dimensions, we only have 3 different directions roller coasters can toss us about. This would be up and down, forwards and backwards, and left and right. In technical terms, these are labeled as negative and positive forces, lateral forces, and longitudinal forces. I'd like to propose better names for them. Let's try airtime, floor time, wall time, and break time. I'm gonna make this a reality. Make it happen, folks. One thing I want to mention before going any further than this, no 2 people will actually experience the same G-forces on a ride. There are a lot of factors that go into this, so let's break it down. First, not every rider is the same weight. Shocker, I know. A heavier rider will experience faster acceleration than a lighter one. One counter to this is that being heavier, you may not enjoy this benefit due to the fact that the restraints on whatever ride you're on may be a bit more restrictive. The other factor that contributes to this difference in ride forces is seating position. Everyone knows the forces are better in the front or back rows of a ride rather than the middle. Every single row on a coaster experiences the forces differently. In the front, it may feel more like your car is pulling the rest of the train, whereas when you're in the back, it may feel like the train is being pulled by the rest of the train. In reality, this mainly affects when you experience the strongest forces, but is still worth pointing out. The final way that ride experiences differ for everyone is people on different trains. Everything such as weather conditions, to time of day, to climate can affect how a train moves through its course. If you ride a roller coaster first thing in the morning, it's probably gonna feel slower. The wheels are cooler, meaning that there is more friction, and also, since the air may be a little bit cooler, this can lead to there being more friction on the coaster overall. Once the coaster has warmed up and the wheels are nice and hot, it travels through its course much faster. Now that we have that out of the way, let's break down each of these individual forces. Airtime is arguably the most popular of forces experienced on a coaster. This is the one a ton of coaster enthusiasts seek the most. Airtime is that feeling you get when you're lifted out of your seat on the first drop or over a hill. Airtime comes in a spectrum of descriptions based on the strength of it. On one end, there is floater airtime. This type of airtime gives you the sense of weightlessness. This may lift you out of your seat a tad bit, but not much. On a technical note, floater airtime is experienced when you have 0 G's of force being put on you. This means that your upwards and downwards acceleration are the same, canceling each other out. On the other end of the spectrum is ejector airtime. This type of airtime launches you out of your seat and into your restraints. Ejector airtime can be found prominently on coasters built by Rocky Mountain Construction. This type of airtime is my personal favorite. It can sometimes lead to a bit of pain in your thighs depending on how strongly the ride ejects you out of your seat. In the middle of this spectrum is what is known as flowjector. This is more of a kind of convoluted term and describes airtime that does more than give you the sense of weightlessness. It barely lifts you up, but not by much. Most modern roller coasters are designed in a way to provide as much of these forces as possible over hills. One other type of force that somewhat fits into this spectrum is hang time. This type of force is mainly experienced when the coaster is upside down for an extended period of time. As its name suggests, hang time is experienced when you're upside down and hanging out of your seat. This force can only be experienced in short bursts due to safety regulations put in place. In fact, our bodies cannot experience too much of this. When experiencing negative G-forces, the blood in your body tends to rise up and can pool in your brain. This can restrict blood flow towards the brain and cause a loss of consciousness and even stroke. This loss of consciousness is called readout. This is not something that needs to be worried about, however, as there are so many regulations that prevent coasters from coming close to experiencing such a high amount of negative G-forces. Because we are so susceptible to injury from these forces, this is the reason why you don't see any inverted loops like this. Oh, and fun fact, did you know that Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point has the most amount of airtime as far as duration is concerned? It has 26 whole seconds of airtime. So what's the opposite of airtime? Floor time. Floor time describes positive forces. Positive forces commonly are what you feel when going around a tight helix or traversing the valley between hills. This force presses you down into the seat. Positive forces are a lot less popular but contribute to the overall intensity of a ride. A lot of the inverted coasters built by roller coaster manufacturer B&M feature layouts that exhibit many strong moments of positive G-forces. These rides often traverse through their loops and valleys incredibly quickly, and the profiling on these elements are equally tight, leading to increased amounts of floor time. If strong positive G-forces are experienced, you have the potential for graying out, and in even more extreme situations, blacking out. A gray out means that the positive forces are strong enough that your vision only starts to go slightly darker. This happens when blood can't reach your brain, meaning that it isn't receiving the oxygen it needs. A blackout is when the force is experienced for a longer duration of time and you completely pass out and lose consciousness. Now, this all sounds incredibly frightening, and it honestly can be, but due to the regulations in place under the ASTM, or American Society for Testing and Materials, these forces cannot be experienced for any duration that would be considered harmful. Some rides, like Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain, often have riders experiencing a grayout during its final helixes. How could I talk about positive forces without mentioning the Euthanasia coaster? This artistic depiction of a quote-unquote suicide coaster, as some like to call it, would utilize a constant positive G-force resulting in the riders blacking out then passing away. The art of the design is from the fact that death from this Euthanasia coaster would feel like falling asleep for riders. Peaceful, right? When riders black out, it realistically is almost like falling asleep. The strongest amount of positive G-forces experienced on a ride are Tower of Terror at Gold Reef City in South Africa. This coaster inflicts its strongest force of 6.3 Gs at the bottom of the first drop due to its incredibly tight profiling. Wall time is what you experience when a coaster goes around a corner and you get pressed up against the side of the car you're sitting in. These forces are most commonly found on Wild Mouse coasters and wooden coasters. There's not much to say about these forces other than the fact that these can often be the cause for most of the discomfort experienced on roller coasters with over-the-shoulder style restraints. If a train experiences a strong amount of jerk or sudden acceleration in one direction, then it can cause riders to lose control of their heads and hit the side of these bulky restraints. This is less of an issue on modern roller coasters. This sudden lateral motion can be found most commonly on coasters built by Aero Development, as their rides weren't designed with heart lining in mind. Most of the transitions are banked around the center of the track profile, meaning that riders experience a much rougher ride. There isn't any majorly notable rides with strong lateral G-forces, except for this one final turn on Pegasus at Mount Olympus. Lateral forces are often more present on wooden coasters, especially ones built by Custom Coasters International. This is going to be the shortest section of them all. Longitudinal forces are the forces felt when accelerating or decelerating. These can be felt during launches or brake runs. The strongest moment of longitudinal force, at least during a launch, would have to be the launch of Dodonpa at Fuji-Q Highland. This launch sends riders from 0 to 111 miles per hour in 1.6 seconds. That means this ride experiences at least 3 Gs of acceleration. That's crazy fast. Surprisingly, humans are able to survive up to 17 Gs of longitudinal force. As far as I know, no coaster out there comes even remotely close to this amount of force. Except if Magnum XL200 cascades on its block zones. Talking about G-forces on a roller coaster and what they can do to you can be a bit frightening. However, the design standards that modern roller coasters are held to ensure that harmful forces cannot be experienced by riders during normal operation. Obviously, failures can happen, but ultimately they are incredibly unlikely. In case you're curious, there is an app out there called Ride Forces, which you can easily use to track what G-forces you experience while riding your favorite roller coaster. I don't recommend taking your phone on a ride unless you can secure it in a zipper pocket. You can also use this app on smartwatches, which is a far safer method to test this. One thing of note is that sometimes certain elements on coasters can actually combine forces. One popular example of this are the outward banked hills on coasters built by Rocky Mountain Construction or Intamin. These hills act almost like an airtime hill, but can bank the coaster during the hill, ejecting you out of the train sideways. Doesn't that sound like fun? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to leave a like and comment below and consider subscribing. I intend on uploading more content as time goes on and as Katie and I experience more parks and coasters. You can also find daily uploads on our Instagram page at Coaster Mania. Soon we'll be opening an Etsy page where you'll be able to buy prints and more of some of your favorite coaster photography of ours. Thanks for watching the video, and ride on, Coaster Maniacs!